Not look. It's interesting. It's actually a good feeling. It's a good feeling coming, not having to answer a lot of questions about quarterbacks. Somebody actually asked me at the Senior Bowl this year asked me, he's like, well, how's the quarterback from Duke looking? And I was like, honestly, I really probably seen him throw 3 balls today. I've been watching a lot of other positions, so. But no, we feel very good about Sam Darnold, and obviously, I think that position we feel we have a very good young player to work with going forward.
Mike, do you feel about where you guys are in terms of putting talent around Sam?
Well, I know we have some good young players we like. I think, for example, like Chris Herndon. Quincy got hurt last year, but we think very highly of Quincy and Robbie. We definitely, there's some other players that we feel good about, I would say. But like every offseason, there's definitely some starters we had that are free agents. There's definitely some opportunities we think we can improve the team in terms of, the talent base, especially through pro free agency and the draft. But we definitely are excited about the idea of putting players around Sam, and that's going to be one of our focal points this offseason.
Like, is it fair to say that you guys will be aggressive in terms of spending how much every last dollar?
Yeah, I think the one thing, it's like, we have a lot of cap space, and like we have a plan for what we want to try to accomplish in free agency. I think we'll be very active in free agency. I think we're going to definitely, there's a lot of different players out there we feel very strongly about can help us. And we'll kind of, but again, you don't know how those markets are going to develop. So I think from our standpoint, it's always trying to make sure we do deals that are, again, they may be viewed as being aggressive, but they're deals that we feel good about going forward. But I definitely think how we build this, we just definitely want to have a team that's going to be, well positioned. So it's a young core going forward that we can compete for the playoffs on a yearly basis. But I think there's a lot of opportunities in this free agency we're kind of excited about.
You need more difference makers on offense and defense.
I think when you look at it, I think we have. Last year we actually had quite a few injuries on the offense. When you think back to the running backs got injured, the receivers. At the end of the season, we had injuries to our tight ends, even Sterling, Neil Sterling early, and then Herndon late. Then Tomlinson late. But I definitely think, like any team out there, we definitely think there's areas we can improve upon, and we'd like to add as many playmakers as we can in this process.
When you evaluate this particular draft class, is there a position group that seems to be maybe a little stronger or a little deeper than others?
Yeah, I would say, well, definitely the tight ends come to mind. So I think this is a good year for tight ends. I don't think there would be very many GMs out there would probably say that this probably wasn't appear to be a particularly strong year with tight ends. But there's some very good players. I think when we look through the draft, there's definitely positions we feel strongly about. But again, we're going to know more about them as we go through this process. We've had our preliminary draft meetings. I've watched myself quite a few of these players, but going through this process, we definitely have a better feel for them as we go forward. But tight ends come to mind. But I also think there's some pass rushers in this year's draft. I think there's some offensive linemen too. And sitting there at the third position in the draft, we feel good about where we're. We don't feel good necessarily about having the third pick in the draft, how we got it, but I think we feel there'll be some good options there for us, and definitely some players can help us going forward.
Right. Before you knew you were getting Sam, you looked at all the quarterbacks. Were there one or two, quarterback traits that were essential for you wherever you were going to get? Like, were there one or two things that you prioritized in that position, trait-wise or characteristic-wise?
Yeah. So looking back, I think it's one of the things everybody's aware of the fact that it's a very difficult position to play in this league. So really, when you break down the quarterbacks, you look at them from an intangible standpoint. So I think first and foremost, you want to make sure, they have sort of the skill and aptitude from an intangible standpoint. And we felt very strongly about Sam from that standpoint, doing our research on him. And not that the New York media market's is a very nice small market. So I think a certain personality type is essential to play in our market. And I think Sam is always one of the qualities we always thought with Sam was. He was very, very, even though he was very young. He was 20 years old when we drafted him, had a very calm and cool demeanor about him. We felt that way actually through the season. I think actually when he got hurt, he hit like a lot of rookie quarterbacks. He did some good things. He sort of started to struggle a little bit, had a little break with the injuries, and then came back and played very well. And we felt very good about that. We felt that was definitely a sign of his maturation and playing against some good defenses late. But then you go back through the, from a physical standpoint, you look at all the, mechanical aspects of, arm strength and release quickness and accuracy. And I think really when you go through the quarterback process, there's so many things you want to hit upon. But one of the things we thought, and we saw this a little bit with Sam last year, was when you watched him at USC, his ability to make plays off schedule, his ability to kind of see things downfield and keep plays active and alive. And I think those traits kind of showed up a little late in the year when he was flush from the pocket and made plays off schedule. And those are some of the things I think which are hard things for quarterbacks to, if they don't innately do that at a certain level, like they're hard things to sort of develop. And I think that was one of the things looking back on Sam, when you sort of put together the physical ability, the intangible aspect of it, but really when his ability to kind of see, process, and make plays off schedule under duress, I think that was one of the things that he did well last year, especially late in the season and against some of the teams we played.
Are you open to trading down on number 3?
I think, right now we feel good at number 3, but I would definitely say if there's an opportunity to trade down, we would absolutely look at it. There's nothing that's transpired at this point in time. Last year we traded up to 3, and we did that early. We did that right in the early part of free agency. But I would say, like everything else, if we're end up picking a player at 3, we'll feel very good. I would say this: if there's an opportunity for us to move back and acquire more picks, that's definitely something we would be potentially interested in. It'd have to be the right kind of deal. But I definitely wouldn't rule anything out at this point in time. I think whatever we can do that help to sort of build the team and the vision we have for it, and sometimes, maybe having one player at 3 or multiple options if you move back with other opportunities, that would bode well for us.
To follow up on that question, last year you moved from 6 to 3, this year the Giants are at 6. There's always been an interesting relationship between the two teams. Would you be open for a trade with the Giants if they came here and made a move?
Yeah, I think I'd be open to any team that would if as long as the trade made sense to us. There was nothing that would stop us from doing that. I think when you think back to last year, I think I may have said this before in other settings with you guys. We felt very good about trying to position ourselves at 3. And part of it was what we'd have to give up in terms of compensation. We thought, honestly, that extra spot from 3 to 2 would probably cost us our future 1. But also at the time, we also tried to do it, when we did the trade, we did a trade that we felt, was maybe at a time when most people weren't looking to do that. So when, if you draw more attention to it, sometimes the cost becomes higher, or you get closer to the draft, the same thing happens. Or on draft day, I think a lot of times when you go into the actual draft day, you have that pressure to kind of, you don't know what's going to happen. You're trying to move up in the draft to go get a player. Sometimes people, I think, historically tend to pay a little more in those environments. But we felt, with all the research we did, 3 was kind of the spot. And we also felt if we got to 3 based on some of the, our information we gathered, we felt pretty comfortable that it would be hard to get ahead of us because we paid a pretty good price for it. We paid, we thought was, a slightly above average price to get the pick with the extra 2, but we didn't give up a future 1, and we felt very good about. And of course, that 1 turned out to be a fairly high 1 this year. But no, I think that was, going back on it, we felt very good about it last year, and I think, it actually played out very well for us.
Trade with the Giants, you'd have to get at least 3 twos, right?
Yeah, again, it's we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think like every trade you do, it's we have charts, we have trade values. My personal opinion, if you're trying to go chase a quarterback, it's a different it's sort of whatever the market is, but then some. And honestly, when we were moving to 3, we were moving to 3 to get a quarterback, so we knew that's something we're going to sort of in the end we had a price we felt comfortable with, and we felt at that point in time like do the trade.
How different do you think Teddy Bridgewater's market might be this year compared to last year after what he showed you guys last year?
Yeah, it's funny. Teddy was one of those guys when. And again, we did a lot of research on Teddy, and when we did his contract, it was sort of a lower base with a lot of incentives. And I think, honestly, from all the time we spent with Teddy, he was outstanding. And I would hope very much, because really when you're around him, you realize, you knew this stuff coming out of college. You knew this stuff what the people in Minnesota told you about him. But again, he had a very traumatic injury. But to see him sort of come back, recover, and play, honestly, we're in a business about winning football games. But when you actually are a part of somebody who sort of gets his career back on track, and he's such a good person. Like that's the thing I think when we were with him, it's we heard a lot about it and we knew a lot about it coming out of college, but I would hope very much that he gets an opportunity to go play and become a starter this year. I think he has the ability to do it. I think he obviously went to New Orleans and they came up a little short in terms of the Super Bowl, obviously trying to get to the Super Bowl. But with us, he did a great job with us, and we're very happy for him. And it kind of worked out well for us, and I think hopefully it's going to work out well for Teddy.
Some GMs are averse to spending big money on running backs. What's your philosophy on potentially spending a top-of-the-market contract for elite money?
Hypothetically speaking, as if there was one in the market. potentially. No, I think the thing is this: like every player. Okay, so we go through this whole process in terms of valuation. There's historical, and we obviously look at history, how positions are paid. But I would say simply this, and not necessarily to circumvent the question, but I think you don't look at it just at that position, but you look at it like any player. And contracts have lots of things that, and I think really you get away from the player part. You just figure out, hey, what do you think the value of that player is within reason, or how do you value them? And then you have to figure out how, when you negotiate a contract, you figure out what is the aspects of it that are areas that you feel make it a good contract for be willing to take a shot on that. But to answer your question, I don't necessarily I think with any player you do the same thing with any player. You just figure out what you think the value is, and you go forward. Did I not answer the question? My policy is I pretty much call everybody at some point in time about every name that flies out there just to see. But I would say simply this, that's something again, we haven't really ventured too far into yet. So, simply put, it's like at this